Okay, and welcome back to another video. Well, this one will be a little bit different. All of the previous videos we talked about how to configure some stuff. We talked about how to install a Zabbix server proxy, how to use the containers, a little bit about Zabbix agent user parameters. If you haven't seen them, then just go ahead and watch them now. But today we're going to talk about a Zabbix 4.2. I believe at this moment, well, most of you should already know that yesterday Zabbix 4.2 was finally released, and that's a new major version of the Zabbix. And right now, what do we have in terms of the versions is 4.0, that is the LTS, which is long-term support version, and the new one, 4.2, which of course has quite a lot impressive and very handy, good functionality for you guys, for the Zabbix users. And in the video of today, what I want to do, basically just run through the main new added functionality in the new release of the Zabbix. There will be additional webinars for 1 hour, diving more deep inside the new features, probably also some blog posts. I will definitely make some separate videos about each new functionality, but today basically just a teaser shortly about all of the functionalities. So what do we have on the slide is like more platforms. So one of the first video was how to install a Zabbix server from the RPM packages, and some of you already asked why do I see only RPM packages for the MySQL and the Postgres? Well, because we do not provide packages for absolutely all available distributions and operating systems. But at the moment, there are some new things. So Raspberry Pi, time ago we didn't have any packages for them. Now we do, so it's a lot easier to install a Zabbix components on a Raspberry Pi to do some possibly quite a custom monitoring. Also, SUSE Linux Enterprise or just a SLES. Also, we have packages. Just go to our repo, download them, and start using. Windows, because there will be Windows agents as MSI packages available soon enough. Docker, the last video, if you haven't watched it, just go to our playlist or our channel and watch it out about official containers of the Zabbix. Then, what's next? Display last value in the list of the problems. I believe many of you used internal macro item.lastValue in the trigger names. It was for a long time very popular functionality to display the actual values in the problem names. Well, in 4.0 things changed, and now they're gonna change again. So you can see in the screenshot, this is the screenshot from the monitoring problems page. You see there is show latest value check mark, which you can enable or disable based on your needs. And then there will be additional new column that would actually show the latest received values from those items related to those triggers. So that will be a new place where you can see the latest received values in terms of the problems. Next one, test media type. All of the tests will be handed inside the front end. How many times have you configured something? Media type in this case, will it be the email or something else, and you are not sure, is it working? Have I configured everything properly? Maybe I made some kind of a typo, and then you had to create some test hosts, test items, triggers, actions to actually evaluate all the processing of the actions and see if that will work. Right now, you see a new column, test, so you can simply, in the front end, without sending some test values, without adding custom items and triggers, test your media type and see if that works. Next, alerts in the HTML. It's like a small change, but still it will be, I think it's very good, and it will look awesome in terms of the notifications. If previously from Zabbix you were receiving something similar to the notepad file. It was just a plain text, information about the problem, what's the trigger name, the status of the host, last values, and some other related stuff. Now it is possible to use HTML, so also CSS, with some small tips and tricks. It is possible to add graphs in the notification, in the email, some coloring, headers, backgrounds, so basically make your notification more pretty and possibly with some additional information. Date and time in the graph widget. Again, awesome thing. Like previously, we had simply one graph in which we were able to see the values on one of the sides or in the bottom, but now you can actually move your mouse through the graph, through the line, and it will display in real time the time when where you are right now hovering with the mouse and the exact received values from the item. So this will make a lot easier to understand what exact values were received at some specific time. Then support of new macros in map labels and URLs. So the picture, the slide is pretty huge. I really suggest you to open documentation and in a search type macros supported by location, you will find a full page with all available internal macros in the Zabbix and places where they are supported. But here the small example like the URL of the map elements. So we have a static URL, the control example, com, action, reboot, and IP, which basically is just a variable extracted from the internal macro host.ip. So the affected host IP will be taken as a value and used here in the URL. Next, added filter to configuration triggers. Pretty simple thing, right? Just the filtering inside the front end, but we are definitely missing it. Right now, this one in the configuration hosts and the triggers section, the filter itself basically is same as in the monitoring problems. So the most important, you are able to filter by the host groups and by the hosts by adding multiple hosts or multiple host groups. And another new thing is severities. So you can choose the severities that you would want to show or which you would want to hide. Then must update from item prototypes. Again, pretty simple thing, but we all waited for it. Probably you already used that when in the simple items, configuration, host items, you select the ones that you want to change, let's say the update interval, and you just click must update, enter a new value, and all of the selected items were updated. That was not working in the item prototypes, so we are talking right now about low-level discovery rules. Now it is. So you see there is a new button, must update, select all of the item prototypes that you want to update, click on the button, enter new parameters, and you're ready to go. Regular expression matching for auto-registration. Again, this will make your life quite a lot easier. Before that, it was basically just a substring, like if host name like something. Now you are able to use regular expression, which means more ways, more functionality how to search for something in the host name, exclude something, and yeah, achieve the result that you are looking for. Next, automatic discovery of host names, and this is about a network discovery. Remember, basically there are two types. If IP address is resolved to some DNS name, then the host name is the actual name of the host discovered. If not, it was just an IP address, which is kind of like may seem not so important because what's the difference? We still have a host. Yes, but on large production instances that might create quite a lot of mess, and then it's quite complicated to understand what is what, and additional maintenance of that might be more complicated. So now you see basically a new parameter fields, host name and visible name. Before 4.2, this did not exist, so now you can actually add some check, like in this example, the Zabbix agent system.uname value will be used as a host name in the discovered host, and same applies for the visible name. Well, basically just an alias of the hosts. Next, host and template tags. In the Zabbix, so in the last versions, a lot of new functionality is around the tags. So it is easier to to tag the values with some actual values, and those values might be not the static ones, but they could also be extracted from the actual received values from the items. And if before they were mostly used in the triggers, now it is possible to use them also on the template level and on the host level. So let's say you are creating a host, and it is possible to tag those hosts with some tags, like in the example, the region, US East, and the service which this host provides, Oracle cluster. Small change, small thing, but on a large environments with many of administrators, Zabbix administrators working daily in the front end, it will make things a lot easier. Just imagine if you have thousands of the hosts, and trust me, usually they are not like fully informational like Oracle host 2 from production environment. It will be just a pattern of some letters and numbers, and if, let's say, some new employee starts to work in the company, he might not even understand what this host is about. But with these tags, we can easily tag like the region, the severity, the environment, or which services this host is actually related to. Then, of course, also the list of the problems where we can visualize and make it easier to understand. Like in this example, we may see that there are too many queries per second. Okay, what about it? But if we see also the tags, so the region, New York 1 is affected, and environment is a production, and service HTTP balancer is affected by this problem, it will simplify your process for troubleshooting. You know some additional stuff that you might check in the graphs, in the latest data, and perhaps also some triggers. Next, support of Timescale DB. I will say right in the beginning, the support of Timescale DB is experimental. And what is a Timescale DB? Basically, it's a Postgres. It's a Postgres with an extension that converts a Postgres to Timescale DB. What's the benefit? But first of all, the supported databases. We talked about them in the previous videos. Like Zabbix needs relational SQL database, and it must be MySQL, MySQL Fork, Oracle, IBM DB2, or Postgres. And it is also possible to use Elasticsearch for the history storage. Now, also a new database, the Timescale DB, PostgreSQL plus extension, already told that. Experimental use once again, but what's the advantages? What we are hoping to get from the support of this database engine? First of all, it will be almost automatic partitioning. Like, that's the logic of this Timescale database. It automatically manages the partitions for the tables. So if before that, if we were using like MySQL or a Postgres and we wanted to do the partitioning, it required some manual work, it required some third-party management script or internal procedures or triggers in the Postgres to actually maintain those partitions. In the Timescale DB, that stuff is happening basically automatically. So the Zabbix manages removal of all the partitions. Performance-oriented database. The key thing here is that, so we have a partitions, let's say in a range by day, but the hot partition for today in which the actual data is inserted by design of the Timescale DB is stored in the memory, which means that all of the queries will be extremely fast, a lot faster without affecting the performance of the storages, which should get us some performance benefits. But I will say that again, it's experimental. We don't have any like official or semi-official benchmarks comparison with the performance. If you want to do that, if you want to test it, go ahead, let us know in the comments how it goes comparing to other database agents. It will be interesting to hear your feedback. Installation, how to, just the documentation, but long story short, you need to install a PostgreSQL and then just throw on the extension of the Timescale DB. In terms of the Zabbix, there is a small patch for the schema, and that's it, you're ready to go. Content matching for web headers in the web monitoring. Remember this part? Follow redirects, then there was a timeout, required string, and required status code. Now a new possibility to select what do you want to retrieve. Will it be the header, will it be the body, or all of them together? So again, allows you to customize a little bit monitoring of the web pages. Next, animated GIFs support for the maps. Just another small change in the usability of the front end, but for years I remember there were always somebody who were like, well, just begging for this functionality. Everybody needed and wanted to see those GIFs, those moving pictures in the maps, and well, what more can I say? Now in 4.2 it is possible. You can add your GIFs, your explosion animations in case of the problems, and make your maps more dynamic, more live, instead of just simple static picture. Remote monitoring of internal metrics. You know that it's definitely is wise, and we do recommend to monitor all of your Zabbix components, may it be the Zabbix server, Zabbix proxy, and it doesn't matter how many of them you have. If you have 50 proxies, you need to monitor all of them. But remember how the monitoring of our remote proxies works. You create a new host with an IP address of a local host and select that this host will be monitored by a proxy, let's say X. Then the proxy X monitors itself. All of the history is again written to the database and then passed to the Zabbix server. What's the problem? If there are some performance issues on the proxy side, and let's say there is a backlog with the data, there will be also a data gaps on the performance graphs of the Zabbix proxy. So with this new functionality, you can monitor the proxy health directly, or it could be also another Zabbix server. Directly, without interfering with some other operations, you can be basically sure that there won't be any data gaps, and if there will be some performance issues with the proxy, you will still receive the performance data, what is exactly a problem. Advanced preprocessing. Remember, the preprocessing was introduced in 3.4, and at least in my opinion, it was one of the greatest features in 3.4 release, and it still is very popular, and it provides super big functionality. So preprocessing is still growing. We're still adding some new options that will simplify the monitoring quite a lot. Like example, validation. In range, matches regular expression, check for error in the JSON or the XML, check for error using the regular expression. Like the simplest one, in range A or B, A till B. What happens normally if this is a frequent case with the sensors? Let's say we monitor some sensor that returns value from 1 to 10. Each of those digits, integers, actually means something, but if, let's say, a sensor fails, or maybe sensor does not have any value at the moment, quite often thing happens that sensor returns simply some drastic number like 999999, and that might execute our triggers that would create basically false positive alarms, execute actions, send notifications, remote commands, and a lot of stuff. Spikes in the graphs. It would affect also some calculated aggregated items, so that is absolutely unlikely. What we can do now, this slide might be a little bit complicated to see, like specify the range. Let's say we do accept all of the values from 0 till 100, and then we have a choice. We can leave it as it is, and all of the values from 0 to 100 will be accepted. Everything outside of that range, let's say -5 or 105, will be dropped and item will become not supported. Additionally, we can check this checkmark, custom, on fail, and then there are options that we can choose. Discard the value. We are receiving 55, 65, 100, it's still in range. 105, it is outside of the range and we are discarding it. So it is simply being thrown away. We are ignoring it, it's not stored in the database, it is not affecting our triggers. If next received values will be in range, it will basically be a next received value. Then a set value 2. We receive values 50, 65, and the next one is 9,999. We can set that since this is outside of the range, I want to change value to, let's say, 0 or 50. Something based on your needs. And that value will be saved. It will display in the latest data in the graphs and analyzed by the triggers. Or set error 2. This relies not only on the in-range processing, but also on the other pre-processing steps. What happens when, let's say, something fails and item becomes not supported? Usually we get some error message from the application or from the item that we are executing or which we are monitoring, like cannot access the file is not found, or permission is missing, or timeout something, password is wrong, or the username. So with this functionality, set error 2, you can write your own custom error message that, let's say, might help to your monitoring team. They would see that item is not supported, and in the error message you could supply an information like if you see this text, please call network administrators or DBA teams, and they will provide you with the additional information. So this is pretty awesome. The next one, also pretty awesome thing, throttling. Throttling will help you to monitor very frequent values, very frequent items. Like, you know, the minimal update interval of the passive items of the polling is 1 second. What happens if we want to monitor something with a frequency with a milliseconds? We might also talk like about a Modbus protocol at this point. We could do that with an active checks. It is possible to send multiple values during 1 second, but remember that means the NVPS, new values processed per second, will increase dramatically. So the specs for the Zabbix server will grow, performance needed to process all of the data, and not always we want to pay that price for so frequent monitoring. So the throttling is this on the screenshot. Let's say we're monitoring something each second. Yeah, let's pick a second. And discard unchanged means that each second, if we're receiving zeros, all the values, all the next zeros will be thrown away in the pre-processing. So the value will not come inside the database. It will not be processed by the triggers. No data trigger will fire because there are no data. It is thrown away. We're throwing all exactly the same values. As soon as the value changes to 1, we receive that value. Then again, we are getting that number 1, integer 1, for 20 seconds. We don't receive anything. As soon as the value changes, we receive a new number, trigger evaluates, actions, all of this stuff. So basically what we get, we're monitoring items with 1 second delay, but it doesn't mean that we will get 60 values in 1 minute. If the value will not change and during 1 minute it will always be 1, we will get just 1 value. The next option is discard unchanged with a heartbeat 30 seconds. It adds the same logic that we talked just about, but in addition, there is a heartbeat each 30 seconds. So each 30 seconds you will get a new value, even if it will match exactly the previous one. Very cool feature, quite a lot to talk about it, but I guess in the next videos. Support of a custom JSON for the LLD. Remember, time ago, not so long time ago, it was Well, quite often we ended up that we had to create some custom script to form the JSON for the Zabbix using low-level discovery macros, following the syntax with an uppercase, with a hash sign. It took some time. We had to have some custom scripts doing that. So that is not needed that much anymore, because you see in the low-level discovery there is a new tab, low-level discovery macros, in which we can specify the macro that we want to populate with the value that will be extracted by the JSON path that is also available in the preprocessing. So basically you are getting a huge output of a JSON, and let's say you want to extract just a name object or attribute, not sure how to call it in terms of the JSON, and that's it. You will get it inside this specified macro. You want to get a size? There you go. Basically like preprocessing. Then in the item prototypes, you can again use them as usually. Preprocessing, the sky is the limit. So this is something absolutely new. The throttling, validation, custom errors, all of that stuff. JavaScript is something absolutely new. So starting from 4.2, you can use JavaScript in the preprocessing. You can write your own script that will do something with the received value, maybe just an integer or a text, and do the processing and store the value after the processing. So this will definitely be a very powerful tool, which also will involve the understanding of the JavaScript. And there's the example what it could look like. Test preprocessing from the user interface. We talked from now, like, I don't know, 10-15 minutes about the preprocessing itself. The preprocessing functionality is growing inside of Zabbix. We have much more preprocessing options, which means that we might end that we open an item, go to the preprocessing tab, and we have like 10 rules, and each of them are executing. And then it will become very complicated to understand what will happen if I will receive a value like this. How the value will look like in the end? Will it even get till the database, or will it be dropped in one of the preprocessing steps in the middle? So to test that, there is a new button called Test. Just enter the values and you will see it in output, so it will definitely simplify your life in terms of custom complicated preprocessing rules. Monitoring of Prometheus agent. This is huge. So Prometheus can collect a lot of metrics from a lot of different things, and Zabbix can collect a metrics outside of it. So basically, out of the box, it will be possible to monitor a lot things, collect the data without complex customization scripts and stuff like that. This is definitely worth of a separate video with some how-to manuals, how to configure that. The format and yeah, also the preprocessing. This will be definitely another video. Data flow, support of preprocessing by the Zabbix proxy. This is something completely new for all of you, also for us. I remember in one of the latest videos, somebody commented that like proxies used to just collect the data and pass it to the server. It was indeed true until the release of 4.2. Before 4.2, all the preprocessing happened on the server side, which means that proxy is reporting a lot of data, a lot of not processed data. It could be just a bunch of text, a bunch of JSON, XML, anything passed to the server, and then server must analyze all that data and do the preprocessing. So starting from 4.2, all of that is happening on the proxy. So we are offloading our Zabbix server heavily, which means that performance will improve. We will be ready for more values, for more frequent checks, and that's pretty awesome. Yeah, advantages and the use cases. Why so much attention to the preprocessing? It moves us closer to the ultimate goal, like you can see on the slides, to templates available from the box to basically just create a host of your device, or it may be a service or an application, whatever else. Just link the official templates and start the monitoring without any complex customization like the scripts, some modules, integrations. So we plan to make all of that way easier for you. Other improvements, so we talked about like the core functionality of the 4.2, but still there's way more. There's as always a lot of performance optimizations and improvements. You can go to any of these Zabbix next feature requests and see what they are about. So yeah, and that's about it. Just like usually, I planned this video for like 10-15 minutes and we ended up to like half an hour. But that's definitely not it. It was just a quick overview of everything that awaits us in 4.2. As promised, you will see a separate videos for about the functionality of the 4.2. I already imagined the videos about preprocessing of the JavaScript, some custom LLDs with a JSON pass. We could do the Timescale DB, like why not? But you saw that the topics are a lot, and we're posting at the moment 2 videos per week, so we could make some kind of priority of which videos, what topics to make first. So what I will ask you to do, just post in the comments the topics you would want to see from the 4.2, and we'll do our best to show them as fast as possible. And yeah, that's about it for today. Thank you again for watching. Thank you for your time. Leave your likes, leave your comments. Don't forget to follow us here on YouTube and also on other social media. Go ahead and try the Zabbix 4.2. If you don't know how to install it, watch our previous videos how to install the Zabbix from the packages, or how to just get a containers up and running. So you can get a new release of the Zabbix in just a minute. Thank you. That's it, and goodbye. Have a good one.